Hare Krishna, Hare Krishna.
A little closer. What?
Can we do the Zoom from here?
Yeah, if you want to set it up, sure. Let me just get. Zoom. You're all set. I'm slow. You're fast. You a Madanga player? Cartel player? Which do you prefer? Cartels? Okay. Want to bring me to Madanga? What? Oh, you're a Madanga player. You can play or I can play. We'll flip a coin. Okay. Huh?
Kata for you?
Sure. Are we on? Are we zoomed? Yes?
Zoom is on.
Zoom is on. What?
Is this the first night?
Well, I guess so. More screen sharing. Okay. You do what you gotta do. Jaya Radha Madhava Kunja Bihari 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 Gopi Jana Vallabha Girivardhari Gopi Jana Vallabha Girivardhari Gopi Jana Vallabha Girivardhari Gopi Jana Vallabha Girivardhari Jasodanandana Brajajana Ranjana Nandana Brajajana Jasodanandana Brajajana Ranjana Jamuna Tiravana Chari Jamuna Tiravana Chari Natiravana Chari Jaya Radha Madhava Kunja Bihari 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 Gopi Jana Vallabha Girivardhari Gopi Jana Vallabha Girivardhari Gopi Jana Vallabha Girivardhari Gopi Jana Vallabha Girivardhari Jasodanandana Brajajana Ranjana Jasodanandana Brajajana Ranjana Nandana Brajajana Jamuna Tiravana Chari Jamuna Tiravana Chari Tiravana Chari Jaya Radha Madhava Kunja Bihari Jaya Radha Madhava Kunja Bihari Jaya Radha Madhava Kunja Bihari Radha Madhava Kunja Bihari Jaya Vishnupad Paramahamsa Hari Vajagacharya Astatara Shatasi Srimad His Divine Grace A.C. Bhaktivedanta Swami Srila Prabhupada Ki Gaur Pimanandi Om Namo Bhagavate Vasudevaya Om Namo Bhagavate Vasudevaya Om Namo Bhagavate Vasudevaya So this morning we'll be discussing this verse on the screen. Canto 10, Chapter 14, text number 3. The chant the verse, I'll then read the Bhaktivedanta purport, and then we'll discuss. That machine that's chanting, can that be turned on? Jnane prayasam udapasya namanta eva.
Jnane prayasam udapasya namanta eva.
Jivanti sanmukharitam bhavadiyavartam.
Jivanti sanmukharitam bhavadiyavartam.
Stane statakshrati gatam tanuvan manobhir.
Stane stita shruti gatam tanuvan manobhir.
Ye prayasho jita jito pyasitai strilokyam.
Ye prayaso jita-jito pyasitai strilokyam.
Jnane prayasam udapasya namanta eva.
Prayasam udapasya namanta eva.
Jivanti sanmukharitam bhavadiyavartam.
Jivanti sanmukharitam bhavadiyavartam.
Stane statakshrati gatam tanuvan manobhir.
Stane stita shruti gatam tanuvan manobhir.
Ye prayaso jita jito pyasitai strilokyam.
Ye prayaso jita-jito pyasitai strilokyam.
Jnane prayasam udapasya namanta eva.
Jnane prayasam udapasya namanta eva.
Jivanti sanmukharitam bhavadiyavartam.
Jivanti sanmukharitam bhavadiyavartam.
Stane stita shruti gatam tanuvan manobhir.
Stane stita shruti gatam tanuvan manobhir.
Ye prayaso jita jito apiyasita istrilokyam.
Ye prayasho jita-jita pyasitra strilokyam.
Prabhu.
Jnane prayesham udapasya namanta eva. Jnane prayasam udapasya namanta eva. Jivanti sanmukharitam bhavadiyavartam.
Jivanti sanmukharitam bhavadiyavartam.
Stane stita shruti-gatam tanuvan manobhir. Stane stita shruti-gatam tanuvan manobhir. E prayasho jita-jito pyasi strilokyam.
Ye prayaso jita jito pyasitai strilokyam.
Jnane prayasam udapasya namanta eva.
Jivanti sanmukharitam bhavadiyavartam.
Jivanti sanmukharitam bhavadiyavartam.
Stane stita shruti gatam tanuvan manobhir.
Stane stita shruti gatam tanuvan manobhir.
Ye prasaya jita jito pyasitya strilokyam.
Ye prayaso jita-jito
pyasita
strilokyam.
Jnane prayasam udapasya namanta eva.
Jnane prayasam udapasya namanta eva.
Jivanti sanmukharitam bhavadiyavartam.
Jivanti sanmukharitam
Bhavadiyavartam.
Stane stita shruti gatam tanuvan manobhir.
Stane stita shruti-gatam tanuvan manobhir.
Ye prayaso jita-jito apiyasita strilokyam.
Ye prayaso jita jito pyasitai strilokyam. Translation. Those who, even while remaining situated in their established social positions, throw away the process of speculative knowledge and, with their body, words, and mind, offer all respects to descriptions of your personality and activities, dedicating their lives to these narrations, which are vibrated by you personally and by your pure devotees, certainly conquer your lordship, although you're otherwise unconquerable by anyone. within the three worlds. And here's the, not the Bhaktivedanta purport, but this is the first chapter which the followers of Srila Prabhupada translated because he completed only through chapter 13. So, purport. Here the word udapasya clearly indicates that one should not even slightly endeavor to understand the absolute truth by the process of mental speculation, for it invariably carries one to an imperfect, impersonal understanding of God. The word jivanti indicates that a devotee always hears about Lord Krishna, will go back home, back to Godhead, even if he can do nothing except maintain his existence and hear topics concerning the Lord. Pretty reassuring, right? Paragraph. Srila Sanatana Goswami has explained the words tanu van manobhihi, or by the body, words, and mind, in three ways. In reference to devotees, through their body, words, and mind, they are able to conquer Lord Krishna. Thus, becoming perfect in Krishna consciousness, they can touch his lotus feet with their hands, call him to come with their words, and attain his direct audience with their mind, simply by thinking about him. Paragraph. In the case of non-devotees, the words tanu van manobhihi refer to the word ajita, or unconquered, and indicate that those who are not engaged in his loving service, in the loving service of Lord Krishna, cannot conquer the absolute truth by their bodily strength, verbal expertise, or mental power. Despite all their endeavors, the ultimate truth remains beyond their reach. Paragraph. In reference to the word jitaha, or conquered, the words tanu van manobhihi indicate that the pure devotees of Lord Krishna conquer his body, words, and mind. Lord Krishna's body is conquered because he always remains by the side of his pure devotees, semicolon. Lord Krishna's words are conquered because he always chants the glories of his devotees, semicolon. And Lord Krishna's mind is conquered because he always thinks about his loving devotees. Paragraph. Srila Vishwanath Chakravarti Thakur has explained the words tanu van manobhihi in regard to the word namantaha, offering obeisances. He explains that the devotees take full refuge of the transcendental topics of the Lord by offering all respects to those topics with their body, words, and mind. One should engage his body by touching the ground with his hands and head while offering obeisances to the topics of the Lord, semicolon. One should engage his words by praising transcendental literature such as Bhagavad Gita and Srimad Bhagavatam, as well as the devotees who are preaching such literatures, semicolon. And one should engage his mind by feeling great reverence and pleasure while hearing the transcendental topics of the Lord. In this way, a sincere devotee who has acquired even a small amount of transcendental knowledge about Lord Krishna can conquer him and thus go back home, back to Godhead for eternal life at the Lord's side. Sounds pretty easy. 1, 2, 3, right? Turns out it's a little more detail involved, but the principle is being addressed here. The context, we know the context, but it's Brahma made a big mistake. He was examining the limit of Krishna's mystic powers by matching his against Krishna's mystic powers to see what Krishna would do. And Krishna won. Seeing what he saw, without all those details, that's the previous chapter. Next previous chapter, chapter 12. He understood that Krishna is the source of everything. He wanted to see the limit of Krishna's mystic powers. Answer, no limit. No limit. What is there that's without limit? It's nothing of this world, because everything has limit in time and in space and in all other dimensions. Krishna is unlimited. So his prayer here, after glorifying Krishna in the first two verses, he's now saying, Jnane prayasa udapasya, because Brahma is endowed with knowledge. Knowledge was imparted into the heart of Brahma. And by that knowledge, one might reason, well, since he has all knowledge, you should be able to, with his knowledge capacity, understand anything and everything, including Krishna. But this statement is, that's not how Krishna is understood. Therefore, Jnane prayasa, endeavor to understand Krishna or transcendence through the Gyan process, is to be rejected. Udapasya, throw it away, leave it aside. And instead, namanta eva, offering obeisances. So we heard this namanta in three ways, Tanuvan Manobir, ways where one can namanta with your body, with your words, with your mind, or all three, to namanta, offer obeisances unto. And the offering obeisances unto specifically is the topics, the sound vibration, because Krishna is accessed through, not by speculation, powers, but by sound vibration. And those are the objects of namanta, because the sound vibration of Krishna's, as it says here, his personality and activities, Shruti Gatam, his personality and activities through sound, they reveal, sound reveals Krishna. The sound is Krishna, the sound reveals Krishna onto the heart of one who namanta, offers obeisances, dedicates one's everything, body, mind, and words, to those sound vibrations in the mood of namanta, of offering respects. We heard the meaning, namanta. Let's go through the word. Jivanti comes at the second line, but it's an important word. We'll see in a moment. Jiva Goswami says this Jivanti means to live. And then, specifically to live in conjunction or in connection with the topics of Krishna. Just for your life. Just do that. Jivanti. And one will inherit the spiritual world. One will conquer Krishna. But wait a minute. Krishna is Ajita, which means he can't be conquered. And the living entity is Jitta. So how can the conquered conquer the unconquered or unconquerable? How is that? How is that? Is because the unconquerable, seeing the conquered, Jiva, engaged in this way, the unconquered submits himself to the conquered. it's one of the most important and outstanding and exalted qualities of Krishna is he becomes beholden to those who do these activities. Now, doing these activities requires not just a behavior, it requires a consciousness that this is for the pleasure of Krishna. Supposing somebody likes cooking, supposing somebody likes eating, supposing somebody likes singing, supposing somebody likes music, supposing somebody likes math. At the program Wednesday evening, the son of Parma Karuna is a freshman at MIT. And Parma Karuna's son, Gopal Krishna, is his given name. He's brilliant. And when I met him last time I went there, I said, how's it going? You know, MIT's tough. He said, well, they arrange things so that the first semester is lighter because they've had too many suicides and people feeling all the pressure and losing it under pressure. I said, okay. Then I saw him the other day. How's it going? I'm keeping up. You know, my sadhana is there. And I said, you know, what about the pressure? You know, MIT pressure. And he said, yes. Yeah, they said go light, but I decided to take really challenging courses in my second semester. And maybe it was too much, but I like it because I like math. I like math. Like that's his food. Somebody likes this, somebody likes that. So the art of life, the art of bhakti, is to do those things that you like for Krishna, instead of just doing the things that you like for your own contentment, indulgence in doing things that I like. And then what about the things I don't like? Well, if it's for the pleasure of Krishna, I do them too. For the pleasure of Krishna, that's a real good principle to live by. You know, voluntarily accepting things that you know it's wholesome, it's good for me, even though I don't like, I do it because it's good, Krishna likes. I like this little section in Nectar Devotion where Rupa Goswami is describing the Rasa of Servitude. And in the Rasa of Servitude, Pradyumna, Krishna's son, the son of Rukmini and Krishna, Krishna's first son, Pradyumna, is characterized as being in Dasya Rasa. And the explanation given is if Pradyumna wanted to do something but Krishna didn't, he wouldn't. And if Krishna wanted him to do something and he didn't want to do it, he would do it. Because of Dasya Rasa. That's the mood of servitor is, but what I want, it's not a zero, but it doesn't prevail. I subordinate what I want to what Krishna wants. I subordinate what I want to what Krishna wants. Like Arjuna. Arjuna wanted, and Krishna wanted. So he subordinated his want to Krishna's want. And Krishna gave him reasons. Many. And Arjuna presented the yabat. What about this? What about that? In the end, he's ready because he understood what Krishna wants. And he understood that what he wanted was not the best thing for himself, or that was not in line with Dharma. what to speak of paradharma. So those who are elevated, they want to know what's dharma, and they want to abide by dharma, and they want to know what is transcendental dharma, that is pleasing Krishna. And that's how you select. It's not about what I like. It's about what does Krishna like. This verse is a celebrated verse, and we'll cover a little bit of why it is celebrated. A major part of this chapter 14 is Brahma holding up the principle of bhakti, the same as Krishna says in the last verse of chapter 6 Bhagavad Gita. The topmost system of yoga is bhakti. So jnana is a process, but above jnana is bhakti. And that's a major part of his prayers. It's certainly a major part of his life. And who is a better spokesperson for placing bhakti above jnana is one who has all jnana. And it has its limits. By that process, one cannot understand. That's what the previous verse says. I can't understand you. But he's understanding through the process of bhakti. And not only understanding, but conquering. Conquering in the sense that Krishna is accepting and Krishna is honoring him. Now, he just did a bad thing. He kidnapped children. That's a bad thing. He kidnapped cows, the calves. That's a bad thing. And he disrupted Krishna's pastimes. That's a transcendentally bad thing. So 3 strikes and you're out, right? But by his submission and so forth, Krishna forgave him, and Krishna lifted him. Because his interest was, what's the limit of Krishna's mystic power? Answer, no limit. So he fulfilled that desire and lifted him beyond his mistake and connected him again, even beyond where he was before, to transcendental devotional service, including Brahma's appreciation for the Vrajvasis, because that's in his prayers. So let's go forward a little bit. Hopefully, allow me to go forward. Who is that? Recognize who that is? Mohan. Who is this? Lord Chaitanya. Lord Chaitanya, right? And who is that he's embracing? Who is that? He was a governor of, at that time it was called Chennai or Madras, the governor. His name was? He was in the service of the king Prataparudra, and he was one of 5 sons of Bhavananda Roy, and his name starts with an R. Ramananda Roy. Ramananda Roy. So Lord Chaitanya met Ramananda Roy during the course of his South India travel. We see over behind Lord Chaitanya is his brahmachari servant, and the other persons were the associates of the governor. There's some brahmana assistants or ministers perhaps, and there's some other government officers behind him. Look in the back, looks like there's an elephant. And, so there's a little entourage. And when they saw the loving exchange between Ramananda Roy and Lord Chaitanya, they were bewildered. So Lord Chaitanya said, let us meet in the evening where there's not a lot of people around. And during that conversation with Ramananda Roy, it's one of the 5 essential sections of teachings of Lord Chaitanya, the discussion between Ramananda Roy and Lord Chaitanya. And in that discussion between Ramananda Roy and Lord Chaitanya, very interestingly, Lord Chaitanya was, the sannyasi was asking the governor to answer, to help me understand certain questions. And one of those questions was, what's the goal of life and how to reach it? And several suggestions were made. Lord Chaitanya refuted them. And then Lord Chaitanya accepted this one. This is a quote from Chaitanya Charitamrita. Pure devotional service without any touch of speculative knowledge is the essence of perfection. And he quoted this verse. So it's the celebrated verse. Lord Chaitanya accepted it as the goal of life and the means to achieve it. So devotional service is the means, and pure devotional service is the end, as well as the means. And with that pure devotional service comes knowing Krishna. Because the purpose of the Vedas, according to Krishna in Bhagavad Gita, is to know him. The purpose of all the Vedas is to know him. And one can only know him through pure devotional service. So the means and the end are devotional service becoming purified without any touch of speculative knowledge. Well, that's a little difficult because we're conditioned. We're conditioned to try to understand things through our senses and our speculative power, assembling those that sense perception and our reasoning power. Just like last night, there was this little interaction where the gentleman was saying there's somebody at his workplace who was a Christian was taking the position that animals have no soul. And there are many positions that people from different faiths, not only the Christian faith, many. Cardinal Daniel Yu, maybe you've seen, there's a written transcription, there's an audio recording, and I've also seen the video recording of that discussion. Yogeshwara was the translator, and the Cardinal Daniel Yu was a cardinal in the Catholic Church in France. And in the discussion, Cardinal Daniel Yu was saying, animals have no soul. And essentially, Prabhupada's question was, where does it say that in the Bible? And he didn't answer the question, but the answer was the difference between human life and animal life is that humans have reason. And animals don't have reason. They have instincts, but there's no reason. So humans have the reasoning power. So reasoning power is the soul. Because animals don't have souls because they don't have reasoning power. So our reasoning power, that's the soul. A equals B, B equals C, A equals C. Logic. That's reasoning power. Where does it say that in the Bible? That there is a faculty that human beings have that is less developed in other forms of life. That's okay. But it's not by reasoning power. That's what this verse is saying. Not by speculative knowledge can one know what's beyond the mind. You can't use the mind to understand what's beyond the mind. You can say, it's not this. It's not that. It's not this. It's not that. So what is it? Well, it's not this. It's not that. What is it? It's not this. It's not that. That's the best you can do. But the transcendence is beyond. So perfection is not just saying not this, not that, not impersonalism or voidism. Perfection is what it is. What is transcendence? What is the absolute truth? What is the personal feature of the Supreme? That's accessed through pure devotional service. That's what Brahma is teaching. That's what Lord Chaitanya accepted as the goal of life, the means to reach it. There's a closer image of the same. Very nice painting. The painting here is Hamsa Avatar. He's standing on top of a stanchion there and speaking to Lord Brahma. And while he's speaking to Brahma, by the feet of Brahma are the four Kumaras, who are his sons. And there's this reference in our Acharya's commentaries about this exchange between Hamsa Avatar and Brahma, about seeing Krishna within everything. If we don't see the factual relationship between matter and Krishna, we're not actually seeing, accurately seeing. So how to see Krishna within everything is through devotion. It's not, you get a pair of spectacles that allows you to see beyond matter. But you see through pure devotion, or the eyes anointed by the love of pure devotion. And then one can see that everything has its connection. Supposing you don't have that, then you're not going to see Krishna within everything. Supposing you have that, they relate. All things have their relationship with Krishna. Just like it's spring season, and Krishna says, "Of seasons I'm spring." It's so colorful, isn't it? So colorful, fantastic. I mean, I like riding around in cars during spring season. It's so colorful. Krishna, you're wonderful. Of course, there's the other things that are, don't have the same attractiveness within nature. There's some violence and some, eating of one living entity by another living entity. That's not lovely. But, time I am, the destroyer of all things. That's going to be tonight's topic, by the way. Time I am. From the 11th chapter, Bhagavad Gita. But that's Krishna too. He brings things into being and he destroys things. But where's Krishna? Because I don't see Krishna. In fact, I don't see, where's time personified? When Brahma saw what Brahma saw, when Krishna revealed to Brahma, he saw, including in what he saw, was time personified. Like, what does time personified look like? If you're a speculator, it looked like death. That the guy, that big cloak, and he's carrying a saber over his shoulder and a long handle, and he's chopping people. That's how they depict commonly in artistic ways. Here comes death. Boom, 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 boom. Here comes death. But that's that's speculation. That's not what death personified looked like. I don't know what death personified looked like, but he's not just a mean guy with a big saber and chops people. But that time personified is Krishna in the sense that the energy of Krishna is Krishna. We'll talk about that some more tonight. If we don't see the factual relationship between matter and Krishna, we're not seeing accurately. It's it's knowledge, but just with knowledge one can't see. One can, hearing Prabhupada described this morning, there's a difference between the concept and the actual experience of something. And Krishna gives the actual experience of him through devotional service. And knowledge can move with time and circumstance. Knowledge goes out the window when, there's some danger, commonly. But devotional service is making that full connection. It doesn't waver. That's what is being described here. Here's Prabhupada's purport on this verse. The Mahabhagavata, the advanced devotee, certainly sees everything mobile and immobile, but he does not exactly see their forms, rather, everywhere he immediately sees manifest the form of the Supreme Lord. Now, this is Prabhupada's purport to this verse in Chaitanya Charitamrita in the discussion of Ramananda Roy. This is the Mahabhagavat. This is the most elevated devotee. You can see what's what, but beyond what's what. You can see what's beyond what's what. You can see they're manifest from the form of Krishna, or you can see the form of Krishna, but it's not speculative. That's not going to happen. See the form of Krishna. And what does that mean, to see the form of Krishna? Here's a big tree. You mentioned, you don't just see the tree. There's a big tree, really big tree. Look at how small those people are at the bottom of the tree. The Krishna conscious person does not see the tree, but sees Krishna present. That is Krishna consciousness. You don't see the tree, you see Krishna. That's another place where Prabhupada writes about this. So it's not necessarily meaning you look at the tree and you can't see the tree. You can see the tree. You can see this and you can see that. You can see it's spring season and there's all these nice colors. And then the season changes. The colors go away. It becomes green. Anyway, that's Krishna. It's the presence of Krishna, at least, minimally, the presence of Krishna. There's a nice statement by Sanatana Goswami about this verse. That's Sanatana Goswami chanting. He writes, the Svetashvatara Upanishad states, Tam eva viditva, or freedom is possible only by understanding Brahman. So he raises the question, if that is the case, then how can an ignorant person attain liberation? And the answer is this verse. Through devotion. You don't have to be a big scholar. In fact, just being a big scholar can be a detriment, because you can just be a puffy-wuffy and think scholarship is it. And then Krishna slips away from such a person. So having intellectual acumen, that's fine, but it's not sufficient. And just resting on that alone, freedom is not possible only by understanding, is possible only by understanding Brahman. So understanding Brahman means to understand Para-Brahman or Krishna. Nice understanding. So here's Brahma offering his prayers to Krishna, where he's saying, by the hearing process, we develop such a loving, trusted relationship with Krishna that he will say, I am like this. You wanted to see me as I am? You wanted to serve me? Such a deep desire for so long. I've tested you in so many times and you chose me. Now here I am. Oh Krishna, oh Ajita, you are conquered by this path. This is the next verse. Let me say more about this glorious process in contrast to Jnana. That's the next verse. Okay. So there's our morning discussion. Let's go back and chant the verse again. Nice verse. Let's say it together. Jnane prayasam udapasya namanta eva jivanti sanmukaritam bhavadiyavartam stane statakshruti gatam tanavan manobhir ye prayaso jita jito pyasitais trilokyam. Hare Krishna. So any discussion on this verse for this morning? You too. Okay, let's see if I have some answers.
You mentioned in the beginning of the class, our natural instinct to be like.
Hmm.
My understanding and realization is right. That drives me to modern life is because of the awareness of the needs underlying
Fine,
the activity.
fine. No problem. That's a reasoning or a value. It was like the discussion yesterday of values drive behaviors. And if my value is I see a need and it's within my power to assist, to serve according to that need, that's what I do. I may be uncomfortable, but I see a need and so I do. Now the Bhakti principle is why? Not just because service-mindedness, that's good, but transcendence is beyond good for the pleasure of Krishna. That's the requirement, or you can say the key to going beyond the modes of nature and beyond material conditioning. Next. Yes, yeah.
So when we are challenges that I personally have is like when we are aware of the need, it appears that we may be selfish in meeting those needs.
Mm-hmm.
But for a well-being life, that we need that, and we need to make sure the needs are met.
Yeah. False ego is mixed in with service.
To become more aware of people.
The Bhakti principle gradually in Madhurya Kandamini chapter 8, it's a very nice discussion. False ego is diminished and the true ego, I am the servant of Krishna, eternally awakens. So, but it's on the Bhakti principle. It's not just doing service. Next.
So, Lord Brahma strikes the mistakes. What quality in Lord Brahma attracts Krishna so much that, like, there was a slide where you mentioned that Krishna says, like, he's so close to, he wants to correct Brahma. So
Yeah.
I was just wondering because mistakes happen. We make mistakes.
Yes.
In our
Yes.
what exact Brahma is what helps him come to this platform and have this realization? Like what attracts Krishna also? So what is from the Brahma side that he did? What attracted Krishna to continue to extend this mercy, this way to God?
There's many things. I'll say of those many things, but there's many more besides what I'll say. One of the places that describes what's the qualification needed for the post of Brahma. And there's different answers to that question, but one of those is for 100 lifetimes, flawless execution of our national duties. Try to do it for 1 hour. 100 lifetimes. Squeaky clean. Just dharma. So his dharmic to the max. And his inquisitiveness, his from Super Soul, the innate intelligence, even when he tries by sense evaluation, he can't find the answers to his questions, like where'd I come from? Then, 1,000 celestial years of tapa for just, getting an understanding of who am I, what's my duty. Very determined, very sense controlled, absolutely squeaky clean dharmic. So Krishna, he is qualified. Krishna sees he's qualified. So what about us? Well, we're not qualified. So how do we, but we can try to become by following things that we know are beneficial for us in the mood of devotion for Krishna, because we want to connect. So, but he had that. It's like, why did Lord Chaitanya gift to Rupa Goswami? He says, I saw in him, he's a fit candidate. So I gave him realization of all there is to know in all the Vedas. Phew. For most people, that's like circuit overload. Not possible. And the ability to expand and write it with full realization. I mean, so what did Lord Chaitanya see in Rupa Goswami? Here's a qualified person. And so he saw in Brahma, here's a qualified person. And for multiple reasons, Krishna did what Krishna did with Brahma. Whatever you mentioned, he wanted to glorify him. He wanted to have Brahma present some teachings. He wanted to have him become absolutely, even more than absolutely, triple absolutely dependent upon him and appreciative of the residents of Vrindavan, because that's in his prayers. Because he was interacting with the calves and the cowherd boys who were part of Krishna's entourage. And they're so exalted. They're playing with him. They're intimately associating with him. And I'm over here creating a universe or overseeing. So it's to help him with that deep, it's like sending Uddhava to help Uddhava understand deeply, firsthand experience, the exaltedness of the resident of Vrindavan. And that's part of the Bhagavatam, is to teach us that, but it's through Brahma, at least one of many, to understand that. But what your question was, what was it about Brahma, and what was it about Krishna's perception of Brahma? It's kind of the same thing. That he had a unique purity on the material platform, a unique capacity to receive fullness of, he became well acquainted with the ocean of truth by revelation, not by other powers. So he saw in him the capacity to receive, so he gave him. And it was part of Krishna's plan to, through Brahma, knowledge of everything Vedic was made manifest in this world. So Krishna saw him as an instrument, and he was a fit instrument. Anyone else? You have something? Something on mind? Amara's got to have a question.
Can I ask?
Yeah, sure.
So yesterday you talked about seeing reality accurately versus not seeing, and even there was a slide here about that. How, I'm trying to figure out how does that play out in one's Krishna consciousness when it comes to, say, loving relationships with spiritual master, or Vaishnavas who are guiding one in Krishna consciousness. Is there an ideal way this should play out? Because I can see in early stages of Krishna consciousness, devotees are
immature.
very immature. They feel like, okay, I cannot see anything clearly. I'm going to fully depend on Vaishnavas and let them see for me because they can do so accurately versus I can see everything, I'm proud, and then there's not that dependence on Vaishnava. So it can go as a continuum.
I'll give a short answer, and I'll send to you a link for a 3-part class that I started listening to because someone sent it to me by Bhakti Vigyan Maharaj, where he's describing child development and as a parallel to the stages of bhakti. And the Shraddha stage prior to the Bhajana Kriya stage is compared to a child, an infant, a young child, up to the age of 5, is fully dependent upon mother and father. You know, physically, emotionally, in every ways. It is blind.
Right.
And so there's an unqualified mother-father, then there's trauma. But if they're qualified, it's, you know, it's total dependence. And, you know, then he has a nice, you know, way of how young devotees see in an immature way a complete, you know, glorification of something that's out of this world.
Right.
And it's just a stage. It's not something wrong with it. But if one stays there, it doesn't grow, then it can be a problem. You know. So anyway, it's immaturity is immaturity. It's just a stage. And how do you become mature? Then the stage of development of spiritual development. It's very nice. It's the psychology of child development paralleled with spiritual development. And he takes references from Bhaktivinoda Thakur and others to support or to give him clues about this whole. So your question specifically is what is the place for persons who in an immature way don't have a proper capacity to speak and behave. In as a mature person would. You know, what's the role of, what was the question again specifically? The role of?
What is the role of, say, senior Vaishnavas who see such devotees? You know, how should they approach it? Because
be gentle. And just see it's accepting. This is the stage. Not judging. Accepting. And, you know, very gently helping someone to grow. I know of a situation that just happened. Somebody saw that immaturity and they kind of slapped the person around. And they went away. At least they went away to somebody else that wouldn't slap them around. But, you know, different things can happen depending upon an unfortunate experience. So to have wholesome spiritual growth takes wholesome nourishment. Every step, you know, and allowing the person to go on to the next step. And then he quotes Bhaktivinoda Thakur in Bhaktiloka chapter 8, where saying there's vidhis and rules for each stage. And when you move on to the next stage, including the vidhis from the previous stage are left, and you follow vidhis for the next stage. You know, most people, I mean, sometimes it's organic. It just happens because it happens naturally. Sometimes people need a little guidance. Sometimes people need a lot of guidance because, you know, they're stuck with an immature, and, you know, it becomes this, you know, a crisis for their spiritual life. That's the topic that he speaks about, meeting crisis in spiritual life and how it's a stepping stone towards progress, spiritual progress, although it doesn't feel nice. Yeah, I think he'll like to hear it. Probably like to share. He is very thoughtful. Very deep person, Bhakti Vigyan Maharaj. And his command of English is astounding. He uses idioms that, many people that are English as a second language, they don't know, but he uses them properly. He's very very, very detailed. You'll like it. You have something more.
So speculative knowledge.
Which? Speculative knowledge.
This is where what causes speculative? Just maybe some property that causes something is ignorant. Similarly, is there any reference where speculative knowledge is coming from? The reason I'm wondering is that the tendency to constantly wonder why this is happening to me, or what everybody's looking for answers, and then we tend to go into where is that coming from?
Here's a limited answer. I don't know of any specific references other than that limited answer that I'm going to give. Commonly, multiple places, Prabhupada speaks of 4 levels of consciousness: bodily, mental, intellectual, and spiritual. And those that are on the mental level of consciousness, they like to figure things out. It's the rational, the animal within us. So they're beyond the animals. We're going to sort things out. And that's fine. Being inquisitive is just fine. But recognizing the limit of that faculty is something that requires intelligence. And many people just stay in the mental, but it's wanting happiness. That's of the soul, and the soul is covered. And there's consciousness is different stages of covering, and different sub-stages within those stages. But it's the wanting happiness, using the instrument of the mind to find that happiness. Some are not, you don't think, they just impulsively act for the senses say, and off they go. Very dangerous. But that's a plane of covered consciousness, wanting to be happy. You have anything? Anything online? Okay. Srila Prabhupada ki.